There's live.
Here we are.
Here we are.
We're live.
Brilliant. So, I will just do a quick intro, and then I guess we can kind of start or continue chatting.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to just say thank you to everybody who's joining. So, it looks like there are a few people who are already joining, which is kind of scary, but also very cool. So, thanks everyone. It's lovely to see you.
Don't watch the little number in the top.
No, I'm not looking.
Don't do that. Just keep your eyes on us.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah. So, first of all, just wanted to introduce David and Eleanor to everybody and I guess introduce our conversation a little bit. So, Eleanor is a novelist and the writer behind the that's such a mouthful. The
I know, sorry about that.
literary obsessive.
If you say it fast, it's fine.
Yes. Where Eleanor, writes about writing, and writes. So Eleanor's written a number of books, and you also share them, serialize them on Substack, which for me, I find to be almost such an electrifying and almost like quite intoxicating in terms of how they make me feel, because I get the writing it's so exciting to kind of read the writing, to read what you're writing, and then the cliffhangers and waiting for the next time. That kind of whole format works so well, and I guess also almost the tangible reality of you as an author to me as a reader, where I might read loads of books, but the authors kind of feel quite
distant,
not necessarily real, and quite distant. Whereas I can read, your books, and I've got some of them, and I've loved reading them. But it feels, and then we can have a conversation, and it feels so much more real, which likewise
I really for
love.
The writer as well. And I think all of us who serialize, one of the great intoxicating draws of it is that closeness to readers. It's amazing. So it goes both ways. Thank you.
Yeah, and Substack feels like such an amazing platform for that.
Yeah.
So, and it's lovely to kind of have you here with me.
It's a real pleasure.
And then David. So David writes Sparks from Culture, which are personal essays exploring wealth and status and family and identity on Substack, which is such a fascinating subject. And the way that you approach it, David, is just so open and honest and genuine. It's really kind of fascinating to kind of read what you write, and then also kind of to read the comments, and to be able to kind of engage in that way as well. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And I have to say, it was a real breath of fresh air when I came across David's work, to meet somebody who comes from wealth privilege and was willing to not only talk about it openly, but talk about it with such grace and such intelligence. I've never met anyone who, in David's position, who can also write as well, and write like that, and write that content. So it's been really been a me to work to meet. Well, David and I have become friends now, so happily.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, his work means a lot to me as well.
And it was your conversation so I only watched it fairly recently, but it was your conversation about kind of generational wealth that prompted me to kind of message you both and ask if you wanted to kind of join me for a conversation to talk about that, because you both spoke so openly about it. And as part of that conversation, you were talking about writing and creativity, and how, from your perspectives, there's no financial driver for you in your writing, for the most
Although,
part, I think.
well, yeah, I'd caveat that. Can I jump in there? I'd
Yeah, of
caveat that
course.
slightly because you're right. I'll talk for me, obviously. There's no, I don't live off writing. I have a small property portfolio, and so I'm a landlady. That's how I make my living. I don't make it from books. But the very first time I sold a novel, my debut, A Perfect Explanation, that was the first time in my life I really had made my own money. Hadn't been given to me. Nobody could take it away. And I didn't even, I was fixated on getting that book published, and it hadn't crossed my mind the impact of the financial impact of it. Not in the amount, it was a very small advance. And then I've sold a lot since, so it's done really well. But the impact on my psyche as somebody who was born into privilege, into intergenerational wealth, or generational wealth, it was massive. I couldn't believe that, because I owned it. It was mine. No one had given it to me. And so it meant 1,000 times more. I suddenly had a sense of pride and belonging in my life that I never had before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it
Mm.
kind of it struck me in that way when I was thinking about it because I guess from my perspective, I have almost avoided more recently trying to go anywhere near trying to make money from my writing or any of my other creativity. Although I do sell, what I make, because I have found the almost the obligation of that kind of crushing. But when I was thinking about, well, actually, if you're not doing it for money, money still matters, because when you're publishing books, it matters if people buy them. And I guess in terms of Substack, having paid subscribers create and the number of those kind of creates a level of gravitas around your Substack as well, even
Mhm.
if you're not doing it because you want to, make money out of having a Substack. And I know, David, you have so you're both top subs paid substackers, I think. I don't know what the
We
phrase
both have
is.
those
You have the tick,
check
you have like
marks,
that
right? Yeah.
little check mark. But I know that you donate your paid subscriptions to the Robin Hood Foundation. So although money kind of isn't the driver, it kind of still matters.
Yeah, I would say that when somebody signs up as a paid subscriber, it makes me feel good. I mean, if someone signs up as a free subscriber, it makes me feel good as well, because they're giving me their time and their willingness for me to invade their email box once a week. And that's, that's important. That's not trivial. But yeah, when someone steps up and says, I like your work enough that I feel that I should pay for it, or I want to pay for it, or whatever the motivation is, it's definitely something that makes me feel good apart from the money. And it's the way that they can show that. I mean, how else could they show that? I suppose they could write a personal note. If they had your talent as an artist, they could really go crazy and do some sort of bespoke uh um art for me. But
A
no.
portrait of you.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll get that as a new option.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it does it it does matter, right?
Yeah.
It does matter is as a signifier of somebody is putting that extra amount of value on your work. So
Yeah, and I'd second that. And I don't, I really admire David's position on the paid subs, and they go to the Robin Hood Foundation. And I look at that and I admire it, and I think, oh, why aren't I like that? I should be doing that. But I'm not like that, and I'm me, and so I sort of wrestled with that a little bit, and I've gone in and out of paid subs, and should I be asking people to, or offering people the chance to pay for my work. But actually, I've come to the conclusion, well, the very first position is, this is who I am. So I may as well just be honest about that, whether it's good or bad. And also, as David says, that sense that somebody is valuing, they're investing in me as a whole artist, me and my work. And that the impact of that is absolutely massive. It means so much to my work. And then equally as well, I know for my part, I then pass that goodwill on and invest in a vast amount of artists. All of my walls are covered with the paintings of friends who have got to the point in their careers where they're having shows, and then I will always buy a piece of work. So, yeah, I think we do it differently. But when somebody becomes as David said, when someone becomes a subscriber to my work, it's absolutely amazing. When they become a paid subscriber, I think, wow, man. I count I've got some value, because, that bit about value, as somebody born into wealth, that question of value is a big one. My father was sold by his mother to his aunt for £500, and he remembers saying, "Now I know what I'm worth." And that lesson was passed down to us, our worth being in monetary. So that constant question, it's uppermost in my mind, and it does impact that sense when I'm valued as a whole person. It's quite something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so. So my profession, in my profession, I am a chartered management accountant, and I have worked I work in the finance team of at B&Q, and I did previously, and I have for many years. I did, and then I worked in the NHS for a while in finance as well. But the drive, and I spent some time. So I worked for about 18 months as a full-time illustrator, because I wanted to earn a living from my creativity. But it didn't work out, and it kind of felt like a failure. And I was writing on Substack while kind of like prior to that, and during that, and still am now. And in terms of kind of the paid subscribers, I kind of flip-flop backwards and forwards quite a lot, thinking, well, I'm not expecting to be able to make a living out of Substack, and I don't necessarily kind of need it, because I have a job. So I've got a paid job that pays the bills. But then again, from my perspective, when people do take out a paid subscription, it's really exciting. So sometimes it's a little bit scary, I've found, because I'm like, well, what do they want? And I know that what they want is just to kind of support. But then you kind of, I don't know, I would, in the early days, I kind of second guessed myself in terms of what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Is this enough? Whereas now, I kind of, it feels like it's an opportunity, and it's a bit of a gift, I think, because it gives me, not only kind of from a monetary perspective, but also from a value and an encouragement perspective, the gift of another moment to kind of be creative and explore all of the different creative things that I love to do, and that are almost kind of my escape, and feel like kind of my purpose in life is to explore all of the creative things, that take my fancy. And that feels like quite a motivation for me outside of any kind of financial motivation. I guess I'm kind of curious yes, there is some level of kind of influence in terms of the money, but when you don't need to do it for a living, what else there is in terms of the creative kind of act that drives you forward and makes you kind of want to keep creating. I feel like I couldn't survive without it. I don't know, I think I'd shrivel and not, shrivel up and die if I couldn't kind of express my creativity. And I want to do it all. Kind of how does that play out for you?
Go, David.
Oh, no, what I was going to say is there's a lot of positive feedback that you get from comments and a lot of the people I know. I'd say most of the people I know subscribe, and they'll talk to me about it, and they'll say, "Oh, this your latest essay sparked a lot of conversation." A friend of my younger son's was over, not to talk about my Substack, but he said he was traveling with my son, and he said I wrote something about inheritance, and he said, "Oh, we talked a lot about it." And I said, "Well, my son would never tell me that because he doesn't want me to get like too much of an ego about that people are talking about it." But so perhaps he's not listening. But I think it's the feedback that you get. It's very positive. Even if someone disagrees with you, that's positive feedback because you made them think. You touched something. Assuming they're not like trolling you, which doesn't really happen to me. So yeah, I think it really helps my self-esteem to write weekly and know that people are looking forward to reading it and getting comments back. So that's one motivation, just pure um, self self-esteem and some amount of pride, I suppose. And then also um, creating a record of what I was thinking is really valuable to me because I can look back on it and I have this notion that maybe, my children, grandchildren will have this record and they may be interested in it because I know I'm interested in the few writings I have of my, grandfather and great grandfathers. But um, I think, I think, I think the biggest driver for me is that when I write, I really have to think about what it is I believe or am thinking about. So to me, the personal growth of writing has been really, really helpful just to understand myself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to conquer the world. That's what I do. I'm massively ambitious, and I always have been. Although I have to say that when I began writing, writing the debut, unknowingly, I was motivated by needing to exist on a very personal issues level. I hadn't really done the work. So I didn't know that was what was going on. But I was really motivated by needing to have an identity that existed outside, well, A, exist, and B, have an identity that existed outside of my family and their name and all the rest of it. So that was sort of an original motivation. But once I'd got through that and done a lot of work, I realized, and lately I've really understood it because I've done such a lot of internal work on this, that the ambition has never gone away. I am massively ambitious. I really, really love it. I really want to keep learning how to be the absolute best I can be. So that motivates me on a daily basis. I also find, just like David, in terms of personal growth, I'm writing fiction, although I do write essays occasionally if I'll pitch something, but mostly it's fiction. But without telling you at all what it's about, but the novel I'm writing at the moment, I'm working something out inside of me by writing this novel. And every novel I've ever written, I've been working something out inside of me. And they normally start with outrage and revenge, and they end up in a lot more compassionate place. So I think those two things, and I was thinking about this further when I was doing a bit of a deep dive on you, Emily, before we came on. because you talked a lot about how you don't want you don't want the creative flow to be kind of impeded by the pressure, the onerous pressure of it becoming work. Whereas for me, it absolutely is work, and I say that as a really positive thing. I love it. I love my work, and it is hugely pressured internally, and gradually as I sort of, kind of get further and further along that path, there are some outside pressures as well, sort of coming in. But I thrive on the fact that it is work, and all my creative endeavors, I would say, I call them work in a really positive way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think so from a kind of, I can sense like the ambition and I think some of what you said around like working things out inside you, I definitely read that in the posts that you share, and they feel so, I think that they work things out inside other people as well, by reading them. I have certainly felt that when I read and listen to both of your kind of posts, your fiction as well, Eleanor, I think, and your posts, David, because they make us think about ourselves. So as readers, we read what you're writing, and then we think about ourselves. So I can, really kind of see that in your writing.
We're
I
both
think.
writing very personally, actually, aren't we? But I don't know about you, David, but I do get that feedback from readers and I'll sometimes and I think you have had this, David, when I've been nervous about, can I really post this? And I'll sort of try and protect. I do quite a lot of protecting, around things. So I'll sort of slightly generalize, but I'll really need to work something out. And then I will go ahead and post it with a bit of like, oh, but then the feedback is, people say, oh, that really helped me think about something.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
I was thinking that, Eleanor, you post, you are very authentic. Like there's no, you definitely are telling us what is going on in your life at the moment that you're writing.
Some of it.
Not all of it, but some of it. And and you posted something, and I remember I responded saying, a lot of people, you have a lot of friends. And that actually made me think, I don't know, my wife and I know a lot of people, but we've kind of been a little bit lazy about like reconnecting with old friends, and actually inspired me. And then talking to think, okay, one of our things that we want to do more this year is to reconnect a bit. Because after COVID and so forth, you can get into that habit of not connecting. So, I don't think when you posted it, you were not in a great mood. I remember.
No,
but
I haven't been in a great mood for months. I can tell you that right now.
But what came out of it was you were talking about, and then I talked to this person and my friend who I've known for many years here and there, and that was sort of the derivative impression, and I found it inspirational. So you never know. I say that only that you never know what sort of value, thoughts that your writing may have to people.
And I think that's why as well, just going back to the paid or not paid, why for a while I had my obsessive diary was behind a paywall. And even though I was getting higher numbers of people paying for it, I was getting less eyes on it. And I realized what mattered to me was eyes on it. So it's now free to read. It drops behind a paywall after 3 weeks, but for 3 weeks it's free to read. So there's that aspect as well. Like when somebody upgrades and becomes a paying subscriber to the Literary Obsessive, I feel a sense that they're investing in me as an artist, and it really, really means something. But I'm also equally aware that if I had to choose between one or the other, because I don't rely on it, I'm not living off my writing, I'm living off, I'm a landlady, eyes on the work is definitely the priority. because it's that connection relationship. And I think with that post, David, I mean, as we get to know each other and become more and more friends, that I can't really have kind of surface conversations. I'm just always straight in. Because that's what really fires me. But money, it's a fascinating thing, and David and I have talked at length about this, around the kind of the hangover of money and that sense of, do I deserve, and all those kind of things. And those are the things I've wrestled with when putting in a paywall in my work. But I've also talked to other writers who are in maybe not the same position but similar, and art deserves finance, like, pay for it.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask someone to, like, I don't have an issue with someone buying my books. I don't give my books away for free. So it's been an interesting relationship with Substack, where you have this much more grey choice, and it's thrown me quite a few times.
Well, both of you, I guess, your Substacks also enable the things that you sell, whether they're, Emily, your art, or Eleanor, your novels.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
So that I think is also part of it. A free subscriber may be someone who buys Emily's art or buys Eleanor's novels.
Yeah, you're right, David. That's why it's a whole story: paid, free, at work outside of Substack, work on. So actually, it's the artist, and there's an entire story. And the same for David. In free or not, and the charities that you work with, and the artists that you support, and all the rest of it. That's what I think. It would be great if people, when they are thinking about it, they thought about it in those terms, that we're dealing with an entire story. So do you really love and believe in that person on and off Substack? And if you do, and you can afford, even for a finite amount of time, to become a paid subscriber, then, it means a lot. Emily, tell me, if you suddenly in the lottery tomorrow won 20 million, how would it impact your creative life?
Oh, wow. So not that I've ever considered that before or thought about it, but I think, so for me, I, in my job, which I enjoy, I enjoy the work that I do, but it's not easy, and I wouldn't do it if I wasn't paid to do it. I exchange my time for money. And if I didn't have to exchange my time for money, if I kind of won 20 million, I kind of feel like I would bury myself in creativity. I would probably have a little kind of shop gallery, and I would have some space in there where I would just do all of the. I'd have like a little studio element where I could paint, or I could, do the pyrography mushrooms that I'm obsessed with at the moment, or even write, because I feel like I'm there is nothing creative that I don't want to do or try. And Substack has made me, it's kind of ruined me for bad writing, because there is so much amazing writing on Substack, including yours. And it's made me want to be able to write like that. And when I look at some of my own kind of posts that I'm the most kind of happy with and proud of, they're not the kind of transactional, posts. They're the ones where I'm playing with language, and I would love to do more of that. I have, a few years ago, I came up with, I don't know, it just kind of arrived with me, an idea for a story, kind of probably more of a children's story. But I've got it all in my head, and I would love to write that. So I think it would mean freedom to me, and being able to just explore and adventure through every different kind of type of creativity that takes my fancy. And I think it's interesting. It's interesting that you kind of said about, so for me, I kind of feel like it can't and it isn't a job. Whereas you said it absolutely is your job. And I think that element of, is it a job, is it not a job, was, and the constraints of that for me, it would allow me, I think, to just kind of not worry about a job or not a job, and the obligation that kind of would come along with that. Because I think that freedom from obligation in, I need to, if I wanted to write a book, having to maybe find a publisher or self-publish it, or that feels like work. And I don't want my creativity to feel like work. I just want to be able to kind of do it and not be constrained.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's both, David, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say that the other, I think this is true for just about anybody who writes for an audience or produces art for an audience. You want the audience to be as big as possible, right? I mean, just you're putting in the effort, and you want to reach more people to share your thoughts. And it's not necessarily, I mean, some of it could be, a portion of it could be altruistic in that you think your thoughts might be helpful, or your art might give people pleasure. But a lot of it is ego, right? You feel a certain way, and you want to influence people to have a reaction to whatever it is
and you want your baby loved by as many people as possible. It's like,
yeah, I guess it's the same as having your phone and showing your, isn't this a beautiful
Isn't
thing?
it cute?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I
guess
I was just going to say, I have a friend who at the beginning of a dinner says, you're allowed to show a picture of, one descendant or pet and complain about one illness, and then you're out. It's so funny.
And then that is it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You're done.
I mean, I think the work play, where those two meet, and this is the thing that it's a tricky thing that I work on. I'm going to say I work on it. Seems slightly counterintuitive, but is that there's a lot around publishing that is definitely work. And I consider writing work in the best way, as I've said. But when I'm actually there with just me and the piece of work, I then have to play. So that being able to switch between those, and I've noticed in my career so far, there've been moments when work has been failing, like the piece of work has not been working. And I've realized it's because I am doing exactly what you don't want to do, Emily, which is putting way too much stress on it and just forgetting that just play, just go and play in the sandbox and see what happens. And that bit remains really important to me. I don't know about you, David, but when you sit down to write a post, what are the stakes? How much play is in there, and how much is it not playful?
What's not playful is figuring out what I want to write about, because I really try to write something every week that I think is of reasonably good quality. So it can sometimes be stressful the first part of the week as I'm going through my life, reading this and that, thinking about whatever. But then once I decide on what post I'm going to write, and I feel like it's a winner from my point of view, that I'm going to go through with it, then it's fun. Then it becomes play. But it's the coming up with the idea that can be frustrating. And a lot of times I'll start a post and I just have to say, no, this idea is not going to work. I sound awful on the page. Delete.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I find has my internet gone? Am I back here again? I find if I load a novel with too much expectation on it, so that in bigger, obviously novels take longer in bigger form, but it's the same kind of thing. If I load it with too much expectation, it just falls to its knees underneath me. I have to relate to them as if no one's going to read them and nothing matters and they're never going to be published and it doesn't matter at all. So that movement. And the other thing, actually, I just really wanted to say, because in my life up until now, I mean, most of my friends are artists, right? And for an enormous amount of time, certainly when I was younger, a lot of those artists had absolutely zero money at all. And they were, not without knowing any details, but they were aware that I did have money and I didn't have to worry about it. And I could just, be a yoga teacher or whatever I was back then. And I remember a lot of friends saying, if I had X amount, I would, la 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 la. And I used to then think, well, I can make that happen. So I would give them X amount and say, there you go then, or I'd build them a recording studio, or I'd get them somewhere to live, or I'd do all these things. And an awful lot of the time, guess what? They didn't do it. So what that experience taught me was actually, it gave me much more compassion for my own position, because I often felt like people would often say to me, well, it's all right for you. You've got the time to do it. And I've learned that it doesn't matter how much time and money you've got, there's more to it than producing it. So it allowed me to go, okay, no. And in a way that allows me to have a paid subscription on my Substack, because it's like, well, no, it's not just that I've got the time and the money. It's the fact that I do it as well. So that,
and
it
it's
changed
not
things.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that it's kind of play, potentially an adventure and exploration and and joyful doesn't make it not hard work or hard or it's not easy, is it? So it's not. So I do a lot of things that I love, and I get so excited about them, but it's really hard at times. Some of the drawings that I've done, they don't always come easy, and you can you get into the flow, but it doesn't make it's not easy to do, and it does. So I guess in the sense of is it a job, or is it work, or is it not work? I guess for me the distinction is more about work. Work to me is in an office at my computer, or working from home, which I do at my desk, planning, managing people, managing things, making sure that the bills get paid where I work, because that's part of my job is to do that. And for me all of that is I class that as work. But I guess it's a different definition of the word work, because when you're learning to do anything new, which I'm always doing in my creative kind of life, because I'm always trying new and different things, it's kind of hard, and it is hard work. And writing is hard work, a lot harder work. The more I do of it, the harder it feels like it gets, because I want to be better at it. And then I read, I've read, so I think, Eleanor, I probably connected with you, or I started reading Fallout when Chloe Hope had shared it in notes, and her, because anything that she says is good, I'm like, I have to read that, because her writing is just
sublime,
phenomenal. I just, and the same, Kimberly Warner, I found so many wonderful writers from her sharing, her sharing them in notes. And the more I read of their writing, the more I want to be a better writer, and I try, and it's hard to not fall into all of the cliches and the same phrases that everybody uses, and I don't want to be a writer like that. I want to be who is cliched. I want to be a good writer who writes things that are unexpected and uses language in a really interesting and different way, which absolutely is what I see in your writing, and what I love about it, and what I love in the writers that I read, on Substack, which has, kind of completely ruined me for bad writing, because now I'm like, yeah, no, if I don't like the writing, I don't read it, because I read so much that is so good, and astoundingly good. I get like, oh my god, how can this be this good? So
Are you
yeah,
reading?
I
Are
don't know
you
if that,
reading Adam Nathan?
yes, I
Emily.
had not loads of it. I've read
Okay, he's
some of
very good.
his work. Yeah, so I am subscribed to him. That is that Blake? Does he write? No, oh no, is that somebody else?
Adam Nathan. What's Adam's Substack called? I think he just called it Adam Nathan.
Oh, okay.
He's doing loads of short story anyway. I'll send you a tag. He's very good.
So I think I get confused between which writers are which sometimes, which not the ones that I read a lot of, but I think I am subscribed to him. Did he?
He's
What's
doing
one
a
of the
lot of
things?
short stories. He's doing
Yes,
100.
I think so.
He's doing like
Yes,
literally eight years of short stories. It's the most ridiculously ambitious project.
Yes,
But he's very good.
Yeah. Did he write one about a prison guard?
Yeah, he did.
Yes,
Pigeons.
yeah. Yes, I read that one. That was one of the first ones I read of his. But yes, and they're just
need a talent.
Crazy good. Yes.
Yeah, they're crazy good.
I have to say something, because I am I don't know what cliche to use, but I'm in the boxing ring with trying to write a novel. And right now, I don't know what round I'm in, but I'm in the corner. My corner man is adjusting my face. I have a broken nose, split lip, and it is so hard.
I hear you.
It is so hard, and you need to have both the skill and the will, to use a cliche, to do it. And I've just found it overwhelming to try to write both a weekly Substack essay and a novel at the same time. So I so admire someone like Eleanor, who's written three novels now. I've read them all.
5, actually. I've got one I'm going to start serializing in June. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I became a fan of hers, Judgment of Others, and I read Fallout, and then but before that, I went back and read The Perfect Explanation, and it is really hard. There's like this is an Americanism, but there's like a phrase, "Hey kid, welcome to the NFL." Like, these are the big times, and National Football League to translate. And so, writing a novel is like,
it's crazy hard. And it looks so simple from the outside, isn't it? It's not till you get in the door and you're like, oh shit.
Well, it may be a little bit
stamina it takes.
It may be a little bit like great stand-up comedy, where someone honed it over decades, and then they get up, and it just seems so
effortless.
Yeah, but
I know. But it's real. And I feel, every time I start a new novel, like the one I'm on now, I mean, I have been struggling with this novel. Struggling. I began it last March. I had to give it up. I went back to it. I had to give it up again. I went back. Every time I was like, I've broken this. And then this one, the central idea was like, nope. Come on now. And I'd go back and I'd start again. But now I think I've cracked it. And do you know what has done it, actually? I think I was listening to Liz Gilbert on the telepathy tapes, and she was talking about creativity, as she often does, and she talks about it very well. And she reminded me when I'm really desperate, and maybe David, you might, I don't know whether you've tried this, but I was my nose was broken. I was up against the ropes. I was like a bloody mess. And she reminded me, and I'm pretty sure Trollope used to do this. I've got a good feeling that Dickens used to do this. You write for an hour, and then you stop, even if you're in mid-sentence, even if you're in the middle of a word, you stop. And you go back to it the next day. And I was like, because I was getting so desperate that I was like, I was just beating it, and it was like, no. And so about, I don't know, probably 40 or 50 days ago, no, maybe less, maybe 30 days ago, it's like, okay, it's just an hour. It's nothing. But I've now it's got traction. Now it's moving. So every time I start, if it's any comfort to you, David, every single time, and I'm such a beginner, it still feels like I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm about to do Kit Duvall's 6-month writing course, actually, for that very reason, because, back to school. Need to learn.
I saw that and I looked at that and I thought, oh my God, could I do that? I wish I could. Unfortunately, I can't, because I would love to, but unfortunately, I don't have the probably the time or the resources. Although
there's a bursary,
is there? Oh wow!
Yeah, there's 100% bursary, and it's still available. No one's picked it up.
Oh,
it's
really?
100%.
Oh, wow.
And there's no complicated test for that. You just write her a note and say, yes, please.
Oh, wow.
That's it.
Oh,
That's
my God.
it. Yeah,
wow. I looked at it and I thought that would be...
It's got your name on it, Emily. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, my God.
Well, Emily, I have a question for you, because you do so many different things.
You're so talented. Can I just say that?
How do you decide, you have time to be creative? How do you decide whether to write something or to illustrate something, or you do many different creative things?
So I kind of feel like I have to write. I try and write every week, but I've rarely kind of manage it on any regular basis, but I usually manage it kind of every 1 to 2 weeks. So I feel like I feel like I can't survive if I don't do that now, even though I would never have called myself a writer, a year or so ago. And I haven't published anything other than published a picture book with my friend where I drew the illustrations. So kind of writing feels like a non-negotiable for me now, which is quite bizarre to say out loud, because I was never a writer. I was an illustrator. I was an artist. I drew, and that was what I did. But I think, from my childhood, it wasn't. We did so many different things, and the motivation was always. It kind of felt like, whatever was the most exciting at the time. And I try a lot of things, and sometimes they kind of fizzle and they don't really work out, and I'm rubbish at them. So I kind of try them and then, I move on, but it's almost the adventure and the exploration that excites me. And then other things, like the pyrography, the wood burning that I'm doing at the moment, I've never done it before. My dad was he was a kind of a carpenter, well, not a carpenter, I guess a master woods craftsman. He wasn't paid for it. He didn't, he did it as a hobby. So kind of wood has always been something that I tried out when I was a child, and I just started to do this marquetry. My sister made me like this little kind of
so sweet
pear.
Pear,
yes,
golden
it's a pear
pear
with kind of with marquetry on, with pyrography on it, with wood burning on it. Beautiful. And I just kind of bought myself one. I thought, I'll just do it sometime. I'll have a go, and then I guess it just kind of bubbles to the surface, and I think, okay, so now I'm going to try this, and I try it out. And sometimes, as with the pyrography, I just get a little bit obsessed, and I can't stop. So I keep making them, and people keep buying them, which is lovely.
Obsession is the
9/10 of the law.
The twin, right? The literary obsession.
Yeah. I so admire. I love your relationship to the creative world, Emily. That you are a polymath and you do all of these things, and that you just play and play and play around them, and you're really talented. I mean,
Thank
like
you.
everything that I've seen that you do is like, Jesus, how do you do that? Like, it's amazing. It's beautiful to see. I suppose actually I'm interested in whether, again, this hypothetical 20 million you just won on the lottery, would it change your ambition around the playtime you have with everything? Would it have any impact on that? Or would it have none at all, except that you just wouldn't have to go and do your day job?
I, I'd I'd like to say I don't think it would have any impact at all in terms of not other than just not having to do, go to work, go out to work. I sometimes wonder whether I would be as disciplined in terms of my that sounds a bit weird because my creativity isn't disciplined, it's completely undisciplined, but in terms of the time that I commit to it, because if I didn't have a job that I had to get out of bed for and go do, would I still do all of the creative things? And I think, well, don't think, I definitely would. I can't imagine my life without the opportunity to kind of just explore these amazing, wonderful, creative things. I feel like everything that we do creatively, we put something of our soul into them. And I think that, because I find it so joyful and such a kind of release, I don't think I could stop, and I don't think I would ever. And I don't know, I think it would just let me do more and more. So my friend and I, my friend wrote a children's story, children's book, which I illustrated, and we published it. We self-published ourselves the year before last, so 2024. We've got we've got more ideas. We've got a book that we're kind of meant to be doing right now, but time constrains me, and because I am so because I can't, if I feel any kind of pressure that I have to do something, my creativity kind of rebels against it. I'm kind of struggling to get to it and to start like doing those illustrations. So I kind of feel like if I didn't have to go to work, I work 4 days a week, so I already have my Friday that I don't work, which it feels like such a gift and such a beautiful thing. I kind of think, well, if I didn't go to work on a Monday, then I could be, creating the illustrations for the book, the next book that we're that we're going to create, and these characters are all part of future books that we haven't written, that Lydia hasn't written, and that I haven't illustrated, other than kind of created some characters that we're going to put into the story. So I feel like it would give me that space that I don't have. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but I think I would still like jump around all over the place and do loads of different things, because there's such a breadth of things in the creative world that I would love to give a try. I'd love to do glass blowing, just for fun, just to see what that's like. I've done some pottery, and all of those things. Thinking about what I could, all of those things that I would love to do, it excites me so much, and it kind of makes me happy. So part of my release, I guess, when I'm not working, is to think about and look at lots of creative things that other people do. So yeah, and I think I also, so what you said earlier around how how creating how you not creating art kind of creates more art, but how you support other artists that are your friends.
Yeah.
I have loads of creative little things, like I've got in here, surrounded by things that I've bought from other people who are creative, and loads of them I found on Substack. So like that connection and being able to deepen and strengthen that, I think, would be, I think I would just dive even further into kind of all the creative things.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly, I think money, I don't know, David, whether maybe you'll back me up on this, but, money, it definitely buys you time, and it makes it possible to support other people. But what it doesn't do is teach you the discipline to see yourself, the work through the tough bit.
Yeah.
No, it's
right.
It does not. And I had a career and then retired from that career with one notion: I was gonna get involved in political role. That only lasted for a number of months.
Because you're too nice. That's the problem there.
Well, it was very annoying because I could see what was the right thing to do, and then there was politics. But anyway, and then I had started writing a Substack. I just decided, okay, I'm gonna really focus on my writing. But yeah, you do need you need to have some combination of ambition and the discipline to do it. And also, the writing that I do, which is different than, or maybe complementary to what Eleanor talked about, writing. You just write an hour. I'm constantly thinking about what I'm going to write about. So I'm looking for inspiration. And I know when I have been in the midst of writing a novel, I'm just like a vacuum cleaner trying to hoover up any little tidbits that could help with the writing. So and Emily, I don't know if visually it sounds like you're always looking for, oh, this person is doing this interesting thing with pottery or some other form of art, and you must also be looking around for inspiration or for other crafts and things to do.
Like those little flowers, those little bunches of flowers you make. Oh my God. Yeah. I couldn't get enough of those. And the tiny envelopes. I was like, and I know you showed us how to do it, but I was still like, how does she do that? Like, that's why it's so completely beyond my world. And I admire it and love what you do so much, because it's like, yeah, I guess if I tried really hard, I might vaguely do it a little bit, but like I could never do what you do. So to watch somebody do just like, well, I'm going to do this now I'm going to do this. I'm like, oh my God, this person's amazing.
I feel the same way.
Everybody who's watching this goes onto Emily's. Yeah. I hope you all go onto Emily's Substack and just see the amazing creative polymath. That's what you are. It's just wild, man.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I guess. Yes, I'm always looking for inspiration. I think, I was going to ask you about kind of how you create that discipline for yourselves as well, because and you were talking, David, about inspiration in terms of the writing. I spend a lot of time on, so just for fun, I kind of scroll Pinterest. I hate the ads; they drive me nuts, and I hate all of that. All of the AI just is, makes me feel slightly nauseous, if I'm honest. But when there's real stuff on there, real things that people have made, that I could scroll that for hours. It's the only thing that I could completely get lost in, other than Substack, just from the images perspective. But I think you were talking, David, about the discipline and also kind of thinking, and obsessively kind of coming up with ideas and thinking through how, what to write about and kind of how to pull all of that together. And I think, so I found that Substack has helped me from a writing perspective with that, because I'll read something and then, as long as I can kind of keep kind of a bubble around me and fend off like the kids drama and the dog drama and the house drama and all of that, and just like focus on that. The ideas kind of need to percolate, don't they? And I guess how do you balance the thinking and the time that you need to invest in that with the actual doing? Because you can't write until you've thought about it, I guess. Can you?
As we were talking, it struck me, and with Eleanor's, you win the lottery example, absolute freedom, I think, is antithetical to creativity. You need to create constraints.
Yep.
In order to, unless you're just very exceptional, right? I guess there's some people just born to paint or write or whatever, and that's what they're going to do. But I have the constraint of having to come up with something every week. And that's really necessary. If I didn't have that constraint, I'm not sure that I would, I don't think I'd be nearly as disciplined. And Eleanor, you have your ambition that really
Exactly.
drives you.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's a constraint as well. That's a constraint.
It is a constraint because you know that
I can fail.
Your internal spectator would be very harsh with you.
Woo!
Worse than any other person. Right?
Oh my God. Yeah, she has the whip.
So,
it's true, yeah.
So I think regardless of the monetary creates the freedom, but you still need a constraint. I think, or I know I do, and I think most people who I speak to, who are writers, successful novelists like Eleanor, they they work really hard. Most days they're less than happy with their work, but they just keep at it. Sometimes for 5 to 10 years before they publish something that they really like, and their constraint is this is my job, regardless of the money. This is my job.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing this. I've obviously with myself, I've experienced it, but with one of my sons is embarking on he's just about to see if he can get into an art foundation. But for the past year, since he left, he was living in Armenia for 2 years, and then he hitchhiked back from Armenia just with a camera and a hammock when he was 18 years old, and so started developing a photography practice. And so there he is, a privileged boy who, we found him somewhere to live with a friend in London. So he's got somewhere to live. He's got a little bit of money just to be okay, but he definitely, he has to go out and get a job in a restaurant, which is what he's done. But he's in that bit where he's got enough freedom and money to have a little bit of time to pursue. Is everything okay? To pursue.
Yeah, the dogs are just the
dogs have woken up.
They have
to pursue his. He's got enough time and money to pursue the practice and to learn about it, which is great. So he's really practicing it. But it was really, I've noticed, immediately it's absolutely important that he has, as David says, constraints on him. So he has to get a job, he has to go and work, he has to do all these things, because otherwise, I witness it now as an 18-year-old, the massive danger of the whole thing being wide open, because, he was already, even with the constraints that we had, in a sense, artificially put on him, he was getting slightly lost in it. So he's now going to go and do a foundation. But one of the conversations I had with him recently was around that. Like, he's in the first flush of romance with a photography career, right? But so you fall in love with your discipline. And then you go through your 10,000 hours. And it's in those 10,000 hours when you discover if you've got the grit to really make it a career. And he's at day one or hour one of those 10,000 hours. So it's really interesting. And so that's the conversations I'm having with him right now. It's like, fall in love with it. And then eyes on the prize, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be conquering the world. It could just be becoming the best he can be or whatever it is. But then to get you through that very hard bit, because those 10,000 hours are one set of hard graft, but then you'll meet those 10,000 hours in sort of minute every time you set out on a new project. But you've learnt that bit of how to get through the bit when you're not in love with it anymore and you think you're really bad at it. So yeah, it's interesting watching it now, him start at the beginning again. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think for me, because I use it as a release now.
Yeah.
I find that you kind of have to have that desire. There has to be something in that desire, doesn't there? And
you've got to want it, whatever
having
it is.
Yeah,
you've got to want it real bad.
And yeah, absolutely. And I guess the constraint that I have in that, I can, as long as my day job, I get to the end of the day job and my brain isn't completely fried and I'm not completely exhausted, then it feels like, because of that constraint, I am more motivated then to, go and like burn some more designs on some more mushrooms, because I know how I will feel, when I'm doing that, and how I feel when I draw, when I maybe not so much when I write, but when I share what I've written. And I guess kind of going back to some of what you were saying earlier around the kind of the feedback and the community and the validation that you get, because I think I get a lot of value just doing stuff and then being able to see it for myself and knowing that I did it for no other reason than just, for joy and kind of because I love it. But then there is also that kind of validation of other people going, actually, I think the same, or I feel the same, or I love that, and that kind of spurs you on as well. And I think that if you never shared it, you'd never have that feedback or that validation, and some of that kind of plays into the discipline, because, and I guess, in terms of, I try and publish something every week, but maybe sometimes it's every couple of weeks. But wanting to do that for the validation that comes back when people read it and then, have a conversation, and the friendships and, the connections, that feels like it kind of creates a level of discipline as well in itself.
And there's also for fiction, not for the obsessive diary, because that's just like things reach a boiling point and then I spill them out and then I feel better again. But with fiction, I have a duty of care to the characters who've come to me. So that's very much a motivation and a constraint. Like, I have to finish the book I'm working on to the best I possibly can, because otherwise I'm letting them down.
Yeah.
So, that's gets me up in the morning and at my desk as well. I mean, they're in my head. They often wake me up, like, get up.
you left me in a position I don't like. Get me out of here.
Literally mid-sentence. Just get up. And also, just in terms of constraints, because I started thinking about writing as a career before I had kids. And I wrote the first draft of the debut novel while I was pregnant. And then when I had them, twins, I was a single mum of twins. So suddenly my time was narrowed. And my God, I stopped wasting time at that moment. I would say I became a better writer. What I really became was I became better at learning, using my time really, really well. And therefore I learnt more quickly. But again, as to David's point, it created a constraint. And it proved, in that moment, it proved how much I wanted this, because it would have been super easy to stop. I mean, who wouldn't? It's like I really had no reason. I wasn't making any money from it. No, it wasn't, no publisher had asked me to write it. It was literally, I could have stopped and the world would have just carried on. But I didn't, because you discover how much you want the thing you're doing. I discovered how much I wanted it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I can absolutely relate to that, because I've started a story. So I wrote it. I've written 3 parts of it, and I haven't finished it yet. And the character, she's still there in my head. She's like, excuse me, this needs finishing. And I guess because of the constraints, because I've got a couple of kids. My kids are 12 and 15, so that's. I guess every phase is interesting of itself, but I'm doing the whole kind of puberty and teenage thing right now. I've got 3 cocker spaniels, which require attention and walking and all of those things, and a house and a husband and a job, and the constraints that all of those things create for me make me like super kind of careful about what I spend my time on, and also what I'm prepared to sacrifice and what I'm prepared to not do, so that I can spend as much time as I can afford, on all the creative things that I want to do, and all of the things that I does it matter if if the bathrooms needed decorating for a very long time? Do you know what? No one really sees it. I don't see it myself anymore. People don't see it. So and I think as I've got older, I've been like, do you know what? If I'm going to spend what time I've got, and it is constrained, then I'm going to do what brings me the most joy and what excites me the most. And I think that having those constraints of kind of life, whatever the constraints are, they matter, and I guess they kind of help us to focus on what it is that really matters to us, and what we kind of feel like the point of us is, and the purpose that we're, I guess, living for.
Yeah, well said.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So we've been talking for quite a long time, and there's so many people, so many more than I was expecting, which is absolutely awesome. And I have had the best time chatting to you both.
Likewise.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being, for joining me on this very first live that I've ever done. So I kind of feel like maybe I will be able to do more now and not be quite so.
Emily,
you're a natural. You're a natural.
There were no glitches. I'm kind of you first one, and there were no technological glitches. So
yeah, awesome.
No, I
success.
Thank you for including me in this conversation, and it was a pleasure speaking both to you, Emily, and to Eleanor, and thought-provoking, and so thank you.
Likewise from me. Really, really great. Thanks, Emily, and great to see you, David. And always a pleasure. It's been great.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. From me, it's been so exciting to kind of having watched you both, and having read your Substacks, being able to have a conversation with you. It has been absolutely brilliant, and I'm very grateful. Thank you, and thank you to everyone who joined as well. And what I will do is look at the output, and maybe do some editing, and then I will post it and kind of share it with you guys. So
fantastic.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. And I will see you on Substack.
See you in the stacks. Yeah.
Take care.
Okay. Bye. Thanks, Emily. Bye, David.